Bars are there for you. When my friend Ruth Ann Pageant Van Cleve, who's in the audience, talks to youth about economic development projects, she will often say you can work for months, sometimes years, and sometimes you get paydays, little paydays, big paydays, and sometimes you get big zeros. But we all continue to still work together. And the work never stops. And I'm pleased to be part of a community that believes in partnerships. We collaborate with people in local and state government at the Chamber. We collaborate with city and county government, economic development, tourism, education, healthcare. And as I travel the state, I find out that this is not normal. They look at us and they say, that's wonderful, because so many groups, they let their differences divide them to the point that they can't really drive positive change. And while I jokingly have foam swords and shields here for our presenters today, I actually don't think they will need them, but I will put them here just in case. I will take a minute to recognize some guests. We have Morgan Alvey from U.S. Senator Mitch McConnell's office back there. Alex Caldwell from Governor Andy Beshear's office at the same table, and Alex Wetherington from Congressman James Comer's office, who in my opinion is already doing a much better job than my friend that was in that job before, Cody Elder, because I haven't got a wedding invitation yet. We also have Jenny Sewell, Mayor of Dawson Springs here, Mayor Chris Phelps from Morton's Gap, and Mayor Scotty Harvey from Nortonville. We have our Lions Club Man of the Year and Economic Development President Bill Rudd. We have Ruth Ann and Kelly from his office also here. There are several magistrates and some city council here too. If I have missed any of you, I apologize. In just a few minutes, you'll have the opportunity to hear from Madisonville Mayor Kevin Cotton, Judge Executive Jack Whitfield, and Jason Vincent, the Executive Director of PAD. But along with Brad Long, who's in the audience, and you all, I'm very excited to hear what they're going to say today. I know everybody is. So before we get started with them, I want to turn your attention to the screen. This is a message from one of the other leaders in our community who is working hard in Frankfort for us. So this is a video from Representative Wade Williams.
Hello, I'm State Representative Wade Williams. I represent District 4, which encompasses all of Hopkins County. Thank you for allowing me to join you today in a virtual way. I strongly advocate for the business community with the purpose of not just generating profit, but also contributing positively to our communities. As I've shared before, Mark Twain wisely noted the key to progress lies in taking the first step. Success isn't solely derived from individual actions, but rather from consistent efforts. As your representative, I am deeply committed to advancing both our communities and the state on an economic level. Devoting myself to developing initiatives that benefit hard-working individuals and the businesses in Kentucky is a central focus for us here in the House Majority. I enjoy actively participating in conversations surrounding the growth of businesses and entrepreneurship in Kentucky. I believe that our government should do everything to help businesses succeed, not impede them. We're currently in an even year session in the General Assembly, having no more than 60 legislative days until our adjournment sine die by April 15th. The House Majority remains dedicated to transforming Kentucky into a 21st century hub for living, working, and raising families, all while upholding the values and traditions that define our identity. Our philosophy on state spending is straightforward. Recognizing that these funds come from taxpayers, we are committed to investing them judiciously, ensuring a return that benefits future generations. Every dollar spent is a unique opportunity, and we aim to make the most of it with a thoughtful and responsible approach. Our proposed budget, outlined in House Bill 6, charts a 2-year, $129.8 billion spending course that underscores our dedication to shaping Kentucky's future. Recognizing the critical role of a robust and fiscally conservative budget in ensuring economic stability and prosperity, House Bill 6 continues our commitment to investing in the Commonwealth's future. Our commitment is unwavering in ensuring that every taxpayer resource invested yields a meaningful return. The budget would prioritize debt reduction and fiscal responsibility, addressing existing debts, implementing sound financial management practices, and avoiding unnecessary borrowing. This includes ensuring the stability of our pension funds, a crucial aspect of our financial health. By doing so, Kentucky can build a solid financial foundation, fostering investor confidence and creating a more attractive business environment. Introducing a strong, fiscally conservative budget for Kentucky is essential for sustainable economic growth. In addition to House Bill 6, House Bill 1 legislation outlines a plan to make more than $1.84 billion in investment toward our state priority areas. We're not just talking about shifting things around, we're strategically using existing resources to make impactful one-time investments in several areas, including economic development. Imagine that, a real boost to our areas that matter, making life better for us now and securing our state's financial future. We're allocating $50 million to a finance authority loan pool for economic development. And keeping a sturdy foundation in the budget reserve trust is a must. With that groundwork laid, we can keep easing the burden specifically on individual income tax and ensure the day-to-day workings of our state government. We face significant challenges, yet within them lie extraordinary opportunities. Kentuckians rightfully deserve a government that prioritizes their needs and actively supports them in reaching their full potential. While grappling with shortages in both labor and supplies, our economy is making a comeback, and I am optimistic about its potential for unprecedented strength. We've been thrilled at some of the big economic wins, and it's not just about the announcements. Our state revenue keeps growing, showing that we're on the right track and moving in a positive direction. This session, we're rolling up our sleeves and making our state an even better place to call home. Representing you all here in Frankfort has been a true honor, and I'm excited about the ongoing journey of working together to enhance our Commonwealth through sensible legislation. Thank you for allowing me to join you today, and I'm eager to witness the positive outcomes of our efforts.
One of the collaborators that I mentioned that we work with and partner with quite often is Dr. Sydney Kelly from Madisonville Community College, their president, and I would ask her to come on up now and introduce our presenting sponsor.
The short person has to move the mic down. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I have been asked to introduce the president of our presenting sponsor today, which is First United Bank and Trust Company. Jason Hawkins is president and CEO for that company, and he has worked for First United Bank for 19 years. And prior to his current role, he has been the chief financial officer, the investment officer, and the trust officer. He is a career banker with over 30 years of experience. He graduated from Murray State University with a bachelor's degree in finance and a master's in business administration. We all know Jason. We see him in the community often. He's active and currently serves on the board for Baptist Health Deaconess Madisonville. He's chair of the Madisonville-Hopkins County Economic Development Corporation. He is a board member for the Salvation Army, a member of the Madisonville Noon Kiwanis, and finance chairman for Southside Baptist Church. Jason and his wife Jessica have 6 children that also keeps them very, very busy in the community. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jason Hawkins, president of First United Bank and Trust. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Well, thank you, Dr. Kelly, and thank you all so much for being here today. It's great to see a room full of people coming to support and learn about the things that are going on in our community, the community that we can be so proud of. Just want to say thank you to the Hopkins County Regional Chamber of Commerce for putting this event together today, and I want to thank them for allowing us to be the presenting sponsor. As you hear from our mayor and our judge executive today, I want to kind of talk about a little bit about how you might be able to measure the success of things that are going on. And so I looked up and I found there was a recent study that found successful, thriving communities have the following characteristics. 1, they have a vision for the future. 2, they inventory assets that they possess. 3, they build plans on the enhancement of those existing assets. 4, they leverage education and incentives. 5, they pick and choose among their development projects and make sure that they're using those resources well. 6, they cooperate with neighbors for mutual benefit. 7, they pay attention to community aesthetics. And 8, they have strong leaders and committed citizens. You know, if we use those characteristics as a measuring stick, I think we stack up pretty well. I think we're doing a very good job as a community. You know, Lisa talked about collaboration, and I actually had that in my notes as well, in the fact that what I see us do each and every day is collaborate. Again, those collaborative partners are healthcare, education, government, the business community. We all have a desire to continue to move this community forward, to perpetuate growth, and to ensure that Madisonville and Hopkins County survives long and far into the future. We are all here today because we are ambassadors of this community. We are all supporters, and we all have a responsibility. That responsibility requires us to show up, to serve, and to support this community. And I'm thankful to each and every one of you in this room for what you do to drive Madisonville and Hopkins County forward. First United Bank is a community bank here in Hopkins County, and that's where we have our roots. Our business as a community bank is to support the community and make it better because we're in it and not the other way around. Our community is a reflection of all of us. You're going to hear from Kevin and Jack about a lot of accomplishments over the past year and a lot of plans going forward. But I am so excited about some of the things that they'll be talking about today. We had a great retail announcement in 2023. We've got the sports complex that will be opening later this year. Some major infrastructure projects that are taking place in the city and the county to prepare us for all of that future growth. We've got a lot of things that are happening from our educational system and building of new buildings and making sure that our students get the quality of education that they deserve. You know, and we have so many things going on in our community to make sure that we make Madisonville and Hopkins County a destination for tourism and bring people to our communities. As always, a big thank you to our government officials, those that are elected, and their teams. I know that they could not do their job without the team of employees that they have both at the city and county levels, and so we are thankful for them. We're thankful for their dedication to continually to strive to improve the quality of life right here in Hopkins County. We are proud as First United Bank to have our roots right here in this community, and again, thank you for allowing us to be our presenting sponsor today. Now to the main event. My job is to introduce our moderator, Mr. Jason Vincent. Jason Vincent is the Executive Director of the Pennyrile Area Development District, located in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. I know he's no stranger to any of us in this room. Jason does a lot for Madisonville and Hopkins County. He and his wife Jamie live here with their two children, Campbell and Jackson. And, you know, they do a lot from PAD to make sure that we have services in our community for community and economic development, for workforce development, for aging programs. Jason, kind of like myself, is a graduate of Murray State University, both with finance and an MBA, so we're part of a pretty good team there, I think. But Go Racers is absolutely right. So he's been at PAD for about 20 years now, so I just want to welcome Mr. Jason Vincent to the stage.
Sword and shield. Mayor, you got to do that too. Come on. Come on now.
I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes sword fighting. The great thing is I know we have some doctors here, Jack has torn hamstring, and you might want to check that right hip.
Well, gentlemen, it is afternoon now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Before we get started, I just have one ground rule, okay? I know these chairs spin a little bit, but don't you all start spinning up here, okay?
You know I'm not good at sitting still.
I know both of you all. I'm talking about with the discussion.
Yeah. Hey, before we get started, though, I know Lisa mentioned it, but, last week I was out sick several days with the flu, and I left the office because I realized I couldn't afford to get my staff sick, because it's one thing for me to be sick, but if my staff is out, then actual work doesn't get done. Right. So I just wanted to recognize my office staff and also all the county elected officials, the city office staff, your people, and
Absolutely. All of our city staff and our elected officials, our city council members, and then we have some representatives from the state and federal government here as well. So
if y'all would just stand up for a second.
All of you all stand up.
These are the ones that make things actually get done.
City employees, county employees, city council members. The reality is a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight or today is in fact because of the hard work and dedication of the team members that we both have. And it's the partnerships that we have with our federal partners and our state partners as well as with PAD. So the things that we talk about aren't just because Jack and I are working on something, it's because we all work together to make something happen. And then we can't even do that without you all in this room, because each of you are a partner in what we're able to accomplish. So for that, it's a big thank you to all of you all.
The leadership in this room from the city and county, the school system, the banking industry, everybody that's here. I mean, it's honestly the leadership of Hopkins County, without which, no matter what we do, nothing gets done without everybody pulling together. So thank you all.
I was wondering if y'all were going to let me talk.
So, you see the slide that popped up.
Okay. Let's first thank First United Bank.
First United Bank.
And where's Lisa? Lisa, where are you? I just want to make sure. She said we have 2 hours, so I just want to make sure she lets us know when it's time to finish up. So, listen, let's go ahead and get started, okay? We're sitting here in front of a beautiful backdrop that I know, Mayor, you have been using here recently. So just explain to us a little bit about where you use this and what this is all about.
Yeah, so this is a partnership with PAD. PAD actually helped us write a grant with EDA, and we received that grant to do rebranding of the city. The importance of the rebranding of the city is so that when we're out talking to retailers and manufacturers and residents, we go to Fort Campbell quite a bit, making sure that everywhere we go you see this big square M, because they're going to see that big square M at some other point, and we want it to trigger in their mind that it's the city of Madisonville, Kentucky, and what we have to offer. And so this was part of that grant to be able to get more information out, to help us tell our story and what's going on in Madisonville, because the reality is when you look us up on the internet, you're going to see that our population is 19,540 people. Well, that doesn't tell our story, right? We have a lot of regional things here in our community that cause our population number to increase. So our daytime population is close to 65,000 people. And if you hadn't noticed, you'll see that when you're just driving through town, the increase in traffic alone that we're seeing all over town. And we have to tell that story in order to get new retail developments to look at our community, to look at those new investments, and to look at new opportunities.
And you see this and talk about the retail, but I think a lot of people don't understand how important that retail development really is, because, we've heard before, we need to get some factories in here and some good paying jobs in different industries, but industry doesn't want to locate if their employees don't have somewhere to shop, to eat. So it's not a one or the other, it's all of the above between retail, restaurants, industry, and having the partnership that we see with something like this, going to different places with the chamber, the city, the county, economic development, tourism, everybody's getting involved, and that everybody pulling on the same rope is how we make progress.
And the interesting thing is when we go to some of these trade shows and these events to showcase the city of Madisonville, it doesn't just benefit the city of Madisonville. when these industries and these companies are looking, Madisonville is just kind of the starting off point, right? So if something decides in our conversation that Hanson is the better move, just this past year, Kloss made the announcement that they're going to be expanding into Hanson. Well, that benefits the city of Madisonville, and the city of Madisonville, when we make our $30 million retail development announcement, that announcement benefits the city of Hanson. So it's all of us working together, like what Jack said, to make that happen. But the other piece of that is when we go to some of these trade shows and some of these events for retail, we're finding that we're getting a lot of questions about manufacturing opportunities, or about warehousing opportunities, or about housing and multifamily housing opportunities. So there's all kinds of benefits to what you see of what just this wall will bring to us when we go out across the nation to try to bring businesses into Madisonville.
So mention some of the retail establishments that you've already announced.
Yeah, you see them over on, I think they popped up over on the screen over there. Hobby Lobby was a big one. Anybody excited about Hobby Lobby? No, nobody's really excited about Hobby Lobby. Aldi's, that's another. Grocery is a big issue. We need more groceries. Five Below, Rack Room Shoes, Starbucks. Anybody excited about Zaxby's?
The mayor is.
He likes some cheese curds.
I like my Zaxby's. Dunkin' Donuts, if you haven't seen, the dirt work is almost complete. The foundation and the footers should start going in just any day. So we're really excited about that. And then Aspen Dental, if you've driven by and seen next to Starbucks, they already have the rough plumbing in, and they should start framing it up just any day. So there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of announcements that we've been able to make. And that's a partnership, again, that takes all of us working together to make that happen. But to have a $30 million retail development announcement for the city of Madisonville, which we have been told by the retail committee or the retail industry, that it is the largest retail development in Kentucky for the next 2 years. And it's in Madisonville, Kentucky. That should say something, right?
And success breeds success. So as we see some of these things coming, it just helps to build that snowball so we get more and more and continue to grow. And, I think it's probably 2019 at the first one of these, I made the statement that rural areas across the country have two choices. They're either going to grow or they're going to die. We're growing.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a lot of interest. I mean, we have 20-plus retailers right now that are looking at Madisonville, of which several of those retailers that we have not announced, several of those retailers have already had their corporate offices in Madisonville, touring Madisonville, selecting sites, that you're going to see more announcements coming over the next 18 months that are just incredible. And it's going to be great for our community. It's great for the quality of life. It's great for our rock star and man of the year, Bill Rudd, who's out trying to recruit manufacturers to come in.
So I wish Tanya Bowman were here because she is the woman of the year. So if you see Tanya Bowman, be sure and congratulate her.
So you've talked about, it's been a little bit since you have had some announcement. Is there anything you can share with this fine group here today that we haven't heard about yet?
Well, so there's all kinds of great things happening.
Sure.
And, there's a lot of things that, and I know I see Chuck out here. Chuck knows how this goes. There's a lot of things that I wish I could say that I can't say, that I want to say because I want to just leak it out, right? I just want to, what's going to happen. But I can tell you that at that $30 million retail development, we've only been able to announce 4 of the 8 stores that are coming to that shopping center. But the one that I might leak out this morning is that Marshall's has signed their lease and will be coming to that shopping center.
Congratulations. That's great news.
It is great news.
So let's switch topics here, if you all don't mind. Judge, I'm assuming when you ran for county judge executive, you didn't expect to be a disaster response coordinator.
He has been a disaster.
When you made that decision. But what did Mike Tyson say when he was training for Evander Holyfield's fight was that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth?
Yeah.
Well, Hopkins County got punched in the mouth,
You know-
didn't it, on December the 10th, 2021. And so talk a little bit about what's happened with tornado recovery since.
Yeah. All right. Well, and we've been punched in the mouth a couple times since we've been in office. I mean, you think about it, 2019 and 2023 were the only thing close to normal years we've had between COVID and a tornado and the recovery following that. It's been an interesting last 5 years, but certainly the tornado is probably, no, it's by far the most difficult thing I've had to deal with, because you see people's lives that were just destroyed. We lost 19 people, and we continue to recover today, but we've seen a lot of good things happen. We've had a couple hundred building permits issued for either new houses or for repairs. If you go into Dawson Springs, you can see a lot of new houses that have come up. I know Mayor Sewell's back there somewhere, and every day you see changes. And that's, still one of the most heartening things that I have seen in I guess really my life, certainly my term in office, is all the people that came in to help. People still take vacation to come to Hopkins County to help build houses. Now, that's certainly slowed down, but the need has slowed down as well, because we have seen a lot of progress and building going on. Some things that are coming up that you'll see, the ATV park we had in Barnsley was, half of it was basically destroyed. And we have not had that park open, but it is going to open up next month.
Great.
So, it'll be something else for people to come into the county to do. It's going to look different. I mean, honestly, half of it you used to ride through the woods. Now you'll be riding through a couple trees, but it looks completely different because it was just absolutely wiped out. We just recently got approval for the engineering and design of some storm shelters. And this is one, all too often we prepare for the disaster we had. And that's honestly what this is doing. But we know that it's entirely possible to have other disasters. So we're trying to build some storm shelters throughout the county. I know the city's working on some. The city of Dawson Springs is. The school system is putting storm shelters in everything they're building, but we're going to have some standalone shelters too throughout the county, so that if we have an event like this where, we saw days in advance that it was possible, but it's hard to get people to react to it's possible. I think now we'll see much more of a reaction from folks if we see a storm system like that build up, but they'll have somewhere to go safe, because all too often we see, things like the tornadoes hit areas that just aren't built to withstand them. They're just not. But again, we're seeing progress. Groups like Habitat for Humanity and the Fuller Group, so many others. Churches from all over the country have come in to help. Now we're reaching out to try to get some community development block grant disaster relief funds to help with additional housing. So we are seeing a ton of recovery, and we will continue to see that probably over the next 5 to 10 years. And if you look at some other areas across the country that were hit with something like this, it's a long, long road to recovery.
Well, you and your team have done an excellent job. Dawson Springs, their team, have done an excellent job. The long-term recovery group that's been put together. This takes us into maybe just a general discussion about housing. And I know housing is so important when it comes to economic development, having that adequate housing stock. Economic development, workforce development. Talk about what's going on inside our community with housing development, just in general.
I can mention a couple that we've got that are not in Madisonville. I'll let the mayor handle the Madisonville side of it, but you're right, it's huge. Not just for the actual housing, but for our retail development, for industry coming in. You have to have the people, you have to have the housing to get people here to be part of the workforce. But we do have a couple new apartment complexes, in addition to all the housing that's being built, at least 2 apartment complexes that are looking to locate in Dawson Springs that will give new and different housing options for people to come in. So, hopefully we're going to be putting up a spec building there that's going to be in the same area as the housing. So that's going to help bring in industry and people into the community. And we've got some other housing developments going on out in the county, but there's a ton going on that's either been announced or close to being announced in the city.
Yeah, so, and again, we have to give credit where credit's due, right? So we have a lot of contractors, we have a lot of developers, we have a lot of folks that are putting in a lot of elbow grease to make housing affordable and housing available. Right now, we're still not where we were pre-COVID in our housing inventory. And as a matter of fact, we're really low in our housing inventory. We're not as bad as what we were during COVID. I think at one time during COVID, we were down to like 12 houses on the market. But I think that when I looked at it this morning, we were somewhere in that, and I know we've got some realtors in here, somewhere in that 40 range for the city of Madisonville that's available to purchase. We're working with some folks now that are trying to relocate to Madisonville, and there's just not a lot of housing options. But what I will say is that if you look on your tables, you'll see kind of that form or table placemat that we have on both sides. It talks about the perfect storm, and that's really where we are right now. Is we're in a perfect storm because we have a lot of this retail announcement. Well, what happens when you have all this retail announcement? Well, you're going to have more jobs, right? So each one of those retailers are going to bring in more jobs. Each manufacturer that we're working with or warehousing opportunity that we have, that's bringing in more jobs. And if you're going to bring in more jobs, what are you going to have to bring? You're going to have to bring in more people. If you're going to bring in more people, you have to have more housing, right? So, and that's one of our challenges. Right now, I think our last number was 3.9% in Hopkins County for unemployment. Well, that means that we had 703 people, I think 703 people that were unemployed in Hopkins County. And there are over 800 jobs available, which means that we're balanced with our unemployment and our job availability. Well, when we're bringing all these additional retailers in and all these additional jobs in, we're at that critical point that we've been talking about for the past several years in housing. We've got to get the housing moving. So some great things. The city council helped us out with some incentive programs that allowed us to kind of spark some development opportunities. Lakewood subdivision has a new phase. Thank you to Joe Payton for jumping in there and getting that moving. If you've not been down through Lakewood subdivision, they've got some new houses that are already built, some that are in the process of being built, and a few more lots that are available there. Steve Pleasant jumped on board with that incentive. Greystone subdivision off of Brown Road. I saw Kent Mills back there in the back. There's a few houses that are already built back there and a few more lots that are available. So those subdivisions are great, and we need that movement in housing. But since 2019, we've only had, in the city, we've only had 100, but we've had 100 new houses built in the city. Well, in 2018, we were about 225 to 250 houses behind in the market. Well, then what happened in 2021? We had a tornado. So we lost a lot of houses. So to have 100 new houses in Madisonville is great, but we're still way behind in our housing inventory and being able to get the community back where it needs to be. So some of the announcements that you heard me talk about last year was a new apartment complex that's coming out on West Knoll. And you might ask, well, why didn't that ever happen? Well, it's happening. They've been able to get some clearing done out there, but they've been waiting on the electrical components that they had to order to be able to start the process of building. Because what they don't want to do is end up like another development that we had that started and then they couldn't get their electrical meter boxes to finish the project, right? So they had all their money tied up and they couldn't get the project finished. So that project, you should start seeing construction on that this summer. Out on West Knoll, there'll be 27 units. A big shout out goes to Jennifer and Chester Thomas. They have been able to get Paddock Apartments. They are not occupied yet, but they are really close. Those are on the corner of Main Street and North Street. And then another announcement that we're able to make today is that the Don Ershing Group is building 120 new apartments that will be off of Brown Road, kind of back in that Cottonwood subdivision area. So we're really excited about those, but we are still, with those announcements, nowhere near where we need to be in the housing side. So while we're out recruiting and while we're out talking with folks, we're able to have conversations, and it's crazy how some of the conversations would happen. But you could be on the bus from the airplane to the trade show and you run into somebody that's there for something completely different. And then the next month they're coming to Madisonville to do a tour to see what the opportunities are in Madisonville. So we have had one of those developers come in already, and they're looking at 150 acres. and they're looking at about 250 to 300 new houses for the city. But we haven't signed that yet. We're not there yet, but that's what we're looking for. We need one of those developments to come in just to get us caught up in the market so that our storm will calm down just a little bit as these new developments are happening.
And seeing that wide variety of housing is great because we know we need that across all different income levels. So, I mean, we're looking at about 300 apartments over the next year and a half, 2 years that'll be built. Hopefully a ton of new houses. And these developers are smart folks. They don't build if they don't know that they're going to have clientele. So
Right.
our population is going to grow.
And you know, another really big one that you don't really think about is how many of you, I need you to raise your hands. I need you to wake up for this one. Tom, Evelyn was in the back. Tom, I need you to wake up for this one. How many of you drive through town and see a dilapidated house? Just a few of you. So we must be doing pretty good. So here's the great thing. We have outside developers, outside investors that don't live in Kentucky that are coming into Madisonville, taking those houses that really should be bulldozed down. And Frank would probably say bulldoze them down. But they have taken those houses all the way down to the floor joists and the studs in the wall. They've put all new insulation, all new electrical, all new plumbing, all new sheetrock, it's a brand new house. And they're able to take that dilapidated house and put it back on the market so that we can have affordable housing in the community. And that takes somebody to see that vision and recognize that that's an opportunity, and they're selling them as fast as they can put them on the market. So it's going to take all of us working together, both locally and from outside, to invest into this community to get it where it needs to be in our housing.
So I know we could spend our all allotted time.
In other words, you're telling me I talk too long.
I'm telling you, we got to move on.
Okay.
Okay, so Judge, every time I drive down the interstate on the weekend and go by the archery complex, I look over there and it is just jam-packed. Talk about what's going on out there.
Yeah, so let me start by saying, a couple weeks ago we had a dedication out at the archery complex. I'm sure probably everybody in here knew Mike Duncan. And we dedicated the outdoor archery pavilion to Mike and have got some plaques up inside and at the YA because those were two things that were just Mike's passion. His passion for youth and sports just showed through in everything he did. So I'm proud that we were able to do that. And Mike had a vision that, honestly, had I been on the court at that time, I probably wouldn't have had because this is something that he got going with the archery complex. And I would have never guessed at the success that place has had, which, Trish and tourism, the archery board have a lot to do with that. But in 2023, we saw about 60,000 people come through the archery complex. I mean, you drive by it, and how many of you would have guessed 60,000 people came to that complex this year? I wouldn't have. That's a huge number. And that's people that are eating at our restaurants, they're staying in our hotels, they're shopping at our establishments, and they're seeing what Madisonville and Hopkins County have to offer. So the vision for things like that is just amazing, and what it does for this community has been great, even though probably the average person that lives here doesn't see that. But when they have a tournament, I'd recommend just stop by out there, and it is packed every time there's a tournament out there, and we have a ton of tournaments. And it's just the facility itself has been great for the community.
And I love going out there. I took my daughter out one day. We were out driving, and because she's getting her license, in case anybody has ever went through that. So if anybody's offering free therapy services, let me know. But so she takes me out, and we pull in and we go in, and nobody knows who I am. It's the greatest thing. I can go in and walk through the whole place. It's packed. There's people everywhere, and nobody has a clue who I am. So I can just sit down and have a conversation with them and talk to them about their time in Madisonville and what they're doing and why they're there. And then we just get to talking back and forth. And then I never tell them who I am. I just walk out the door. But it's information that we're able to bring back.
He does, too. He says he's Jack Whitfield every time.
Well, there has been a couple of times. And it works out real well. Because in case you didn't know, Jack is known as Prince Jack. He never does anything wrong. I mean, look, he jumps on top of the stage, right? If I was to do that, Well, I'm not going to tell you what would happen.
I just figure you were out there trying to get them to change their voter information.
Voter information.
That's right. That's right.
Their residency.
So, listen, like many of the people in this room, my children are in travel sports. They're in other activities that take them to other communities. And we spend a lot of money in these other communities that we go to, whether we're eating at the restaurant, staying in the hotel. My kids forget stuff, their uniforms or equipment. We've got to go to the local store to buy stuff. The new sports complex is going to have such an impact. I mean, it's already having an impact with things that have already been announced. I know the sports complex has already been mentioned today, but where are we? Where does that stand at this point?
It's at the end of Midtown Boulevard.
Yeah. So, and that place, I mean, talk about the archery complex. It's about 20,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. The new sports complex is going to be about 85,000 square feet.
I think it's 92.
Is it 92
92,000 square feet total.
It's going to be huge, and it is going to be a boon for the community. That's something that
98. I'm sorry, we were both wrong.
Bigger. All right, 98,000 square feet.
98,000 square feet.
And this is something that I know I've talked about every year that I've been in office, because we had a big sign on the interstate by the archery complex, future home of the Hopkins County Sports Complex. And honestly, the location and the idea for the county to do that by itself never made sense to me. We knew it was a good idea to build one, but doing it on our own just wasn't feasible at the time, and still wouldn't be. But fortunately, between the fiscal court and the city council, we've been able to come together to make this thing a reality that you now see coming up. The county is putting a lot of funding into it to help get it built. The city is sharing in that cost. And then the city's going to play the major role in running the thing, because you've got a bigger staff than we do. You've got a Parks and Rec department, and it's in the city, and it's going to bring a ton of folks into Madisonville and Hopkins County.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to those partnerships and making sure that we're working together with one big vision, and that's making a generational change for our community. And that's what the sports complex does. But it's not just that makes the generational change. It's the partnership between the city and the county. And you heard from Lisa and others that the relationship that Jack and I have is not seen across the state very often. But what I like is that when we started talking about this project, he was all in, 100%. He said, we've got to do this. We've got to make this happen. And so now we have it. And if you've not been out there, it is at the end of Midtown Boulevard on the left-hand side. It's the biggest building out there. You can't miss it if you drive out there. But it is, right now, we're probably sitting on about 60 days, give or take, from substantial completion on that project. It is the largest hardwood court in the state. So even though it's going to have 6 basketball courts and it's going to have 12 volleyball courts and 22 pickleball courts, that side of the building is the largest hardwood court in the state of Kentucky, which is big for us because it's kind of big. It's the largest, it's big. But it's going to be big for us because we're able to attract tournaments that you would not have been able to attract. And that was the one thing when we talked to Hopkinsville, if you remember, that not all the tournaments want to play on a rubber floor. They want to play on the hardwood court. So really excited about that project. It is well underway. I can't wait for it. We've been able to hire a new superintendent, an assistant superintendent out there. They've been working hard. They already have some tournaments scheduled for later this summer. And, it's going to take a year, so give us some time. It's going to take a year to really get that thing up and running and scheduled out like it needs to be, but it is a huge asset. Even when we're talking about the retail development, we already have knowledge that there are 3 hotels that have recognized that we need more hotels in the city of Madisonville. So you're going to see a lot of changes happening because of that. There's another really cool excited. Can I use the word excited, Brad? It's not in my book.
Are you counting?
Right across. It's fantastic is what it is. There's another opportunity right across from the sports complex that's coming that we'll be able to announce shortly, and it's a big need in our region, and I'm really excited. But it's all because of the announcement and the partnership with the county and the magistrates and the city council that believed in the vision to do something for our kids.
And even if you have zero interest in sports, you don't have any kids or grandkids that play, and you never step foot in that building, everybody in the county is going to benefit from it, from the things that grow up around it and the different businesses that it brings in.
Well, even when we're recruiting doctors to come in and work in our facilities, you know, one of the things that their families are asking is, what's in it for our kids? What are our kids going to do? What are our families going to have? Well, now we're going to be able to say, we've got this retail development that's coming in. We have this new 98,000 square foot sportsplex that's available. And that's really a big thing for families that are looking to relocate in the community.
Yeah, and if any of y'all want to see the sports complex before it's done and open, just give us a call. We'll be glad to take you on a tour out there. I love going out there and checking out the progress.
The young professionals just had a tour out there, so we love showing it off. I'm not sure that the contractors like us coming out there as much, but we just barge right in the door. So anytime you want to go look, let us know.
So I did see one of you jump up on the stage earlier, so I probably know how this would play out. But I'm wondering if the grand opening, we could have like a 3-point contest between the two of you all or something like that.
I think we need to have a dunk contest, but we got to have trampolines to jump off of.
Absolutely, because this is what I know. We can do that. That we'll do a 3-pointer, because I know that it's going to be one of those preschool basketball goals that are out there, just so that Jack can reach it.
Yeah, right.
I think we got a challenge coming. Play a little horse.
All right, moving on. So, Mayor, I was driving down West Center Street earlier this week, and I saw some equipment moving a lot of pipe down that direction. What's going on?
So you all have heard us talk about the West Knoll Interceptor project. That is the largest. That's the largest infrastructure project in years. I would say decades. And I don't know dollar-wise. I'm not sure that it's not the largest in the history of Madisonville. But it is definitely the project that is going to take us into the next 50 years. So again, when we're looking at how are we going to make decisions that affect our kids and our grandkids, that's one of those projects. Because as the growth is happening and as all the announcements are coming, you're going to have a lot of sewer that comes with that. So we have to do something with that sewer, right? And so in order for us to continue to grow, that project was imperative. But it doesn't just help us grow, that helps the entire area grow, because we provide sewer for the city of Hanson, and the city of Hanson doesn't have the availability for additional growth and sewage because our system can't handle it yet. Once this project is underway, then we're going to be able to handle that sewer for the next 50 years. But it is, it goes along to the decisions that the city council have made. You know, not only is that project well underway, there's one last phase of that to be finalized, and that's the West Side Lift Station, which is a huge portion of that. But it should go out to bid in the next, hopefully in the next month or two, that we'll start seeing that. But it's going to be another year and a half before we see that completed. But it is, in fact, a huge benefit. And as a matter of fact, we've been taking kids on tours. We take them by there and let them sign their name in the pipe. I won't tell you some of the comments that they make while they're signing the inside of a sewer pipe, but it is interesting. But, you know, another piece of that is, you know, when we talk about that, in order for that to be successful, the city's financial position has to be sound. And the council and our city administrator and our finance team, and they've all done a great job at making sure that we're watching those funds and being responsible for them. We've been able to position ourselves, you know, you'd like to see 3 months worth of reserve, and we have not had that, but we do now have 2.94 months. So I'm going to go ahead and call that 3 months if you'll let me. And we'll politicize that just a little bit. It's going to be we have 3 months of reserves, okay?
When I think about this sewer project and what the city has taken on here, I think about years ago, this is the type of project similar to when leaders made the decision to run that line from the Green River to Lake Pee Wee, and where would we be if city leaders hadn't made that decision back then to run that line? Where would we be now?
In trouble.
That's right.
We utilize that line periodically throughout the summer, and Alan Todd's with us. He was able to help us with a project out there to save several dollars. I think he saved us $1.2 million in and rebuilding the pump house at the Green River. But that, when you think about the water source, our water source is Lake Pee Wee. And if you think about the summer months and when we don't have rain for several months until 4th of July, then you have to have, sorry, I said that out loud, but you have to have a way to get that water source. And so we pump water when we're in drought season from the Green River into Lake Pee Wee. Mm-hmm. And a big shout out goes to that team. And but we couldn't do it without that. So when they put that in, they were thinking about our kids and our grandkids, and we're actually those kids and grandkids.
You know, and that's the job that we have, is to look to the future, not just what's going on right now. You know, Donnie Carroll used to say we're planting trees under whose shade we may never rest.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, Judge, let's stay on topic about projects you're doing that are going to positively impact the county for the future. I know that the county's been paving a lot of roads here recently. Talk to us about all the transportation improvements that are being made throughout the county.
Yeah, so over the last year, we've paved about 40 miles of road, which we put more in the budget. You know, with the fiscal court, that was one thing that several of the magistrates asked for. We got to put money on our roads. So we put more in the budget this year than we ever have. And again, that's about 40 miles of road paved. Now, we've got 465 miles of road. That's a lot to take care of. And I have learned the only road that is important to get paved is the one that the person that's calling me lives on.
That's right.
So
That's right.
if that doesn't get paved, it doesn't matter how many other miles we do. But that's something that we'll keep on trying to, you know, infrastructure is just huge. If you can't get around, if you can't get to the jobs, then it's a problem. That's so right. We'll continue to do everything we can to put money into our infrastructure to continue to help the city and county to grow and prosper and improve.
What about that pothole that you fixed? You know, you repaved that road, and then somebody called and complained because you repaved it.
Yeah, you know, people call me all the time about the roads, and I had one guy that called me probably once a week for 2 years before we finally got around to his road, and he called me 2 days later and said, "Hey, they're going too fast on my new road." I said, "All right, I'll have the road guys out there tomorrow. We'll start digging potholes in it."
I'm just so excited that somebody finally called and complained to you.
So, Mayor, talk about the improvements the city's making.
Yeah, so historically in the city, the way that the road plan has worked is we work off of municipal aid funds, which comes from the gas tax. The state sets a rate, and then they tell you how much money that you're going to get, and that's how much money we put in paving every year. Well, the challenge with that is you're never going to get caught up with what you're doing. So we're always behind in trying to get our streets taken care of. And so last year, the council, you hear me talk about the council a lot because they're imperative to making sure that we have what we need in the city. But they approved in the budget for us to put almost $700,000 in last year, and we typically would get somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. So we were able to more than double the amount of paving last year. And then on top of that, our engineering department and transportation department, they've come up with this new system, or they've been able to find a new system that will, they put sensors on the bottom of city vehicles, and then those city vehicles drive all over town. So they're vehicles that they know are going to be all over the city streets. And that gauges the condition of the streets. And I'm about to floor you, so everybody hang on to your seat, because it is what that software has determined is that the need in the city of Madisonville in street repairs is $7.8 million. If we were to fix every pothole today, it would cost $7.8 million to do it. Are we going to be able to do that for $250,000 a year? No. And even if we were to get caught up today, we still have to maintain that over the next several years, right? So we're already repairing streets that we've paved 5 years ago, just simply because of the issues. So we now have, and the council will have, when they go into budget talks this year, they'll have a full plan in front of them that identifies the streets, prioritizes the streets, and then how we're going to be able to try to start getting that number smaller as we're moving forward over the next several years.
I forgot when we started. I meant to ask you all if you needed something to drink. Got this really nice teapot here. I don't know. Mayor, you might talk about where that came from.
I'm not talking about it. You might want to shield instead.
Okay. Does anybody remember the news story about the $400 and something teapot? I want to introduce you to the $36.99 teapot that we bought for all of our city events. That hit the news and went crazy. It was the greatest thing to see how fake news can move so fast. But what that does is that just tells you that not everybody has all the information that they need, right? And if we let something like that deter us, then we're not going to continue with making progress in the community. So sometimes you have to kind of balance that out. And if anybody wants to see it, I've got several pages of an invoice here to show you where you can buy this really nice teapot, okay? It's on Amazon.com. They probably have discontinued it by now, but we still use it, and I'm so thankful that you decided to bring that to today. But that does give me an opportunity to talk a little bit about
talk about the events that we've got that we're thinking about this year.
So the restaurant tax, as many of you know, can only be spent for tourism-related projects or events that's going to bring people into our community. Well, how many of you, show me by a raise of hands, because I want to wake you back up. I saw Tom back there nodding off in the back. Raise your hand. If I was to tell you that if you give me $100, bankers cannot raise your hand. If you give me $100, I'm going to turn around and give you $400 back. How many of you would do it? Okay, even with the rain that we had last year during Fourth Fest, we were able to see an economic impact of $2.7+ million in economic revenue in our community just because of the events that we have in the city of Madisonville. So we were able to turn 4 times the cost of those events into a $2.7 million economic impact. That's huge for our community. And had we have not had some of the worst rain that, of course, I ordered, right? Like I said, Lord, please bring down the rain during this 3-day event. Well, that rain event, with that, we still did $2.7 million in economic impact. And that impact calculator comes from the state of Kentucky, and we put in a super low, very conservative numbers in how many people spent the night, and we know that it was more because I like to go hang out at the hotels. I know that sounds odd, but I go in and I'll just sit down in the lobby and I'll talk to people when they come through. I want to know why they're there. It is, I understand. That's fine. But it's free breakfast. So they got this really cool buffet. And they never ask me if I have a room key, right? You just go in and get a plate. But you're going to see some great events this year. Beach Bash is coming up. That brings in airplane owners from all over the nation. They'll fly into our airport. Right now, I think they have around 300 people that have already sent in their registration for that. So we'll see about 125 planes or so out there. Hopefully we'll see more, but that's a lot. Emily's over there sweating because if you've been out to our airport, you'll recognize that there's not a lot of airplane parking. But that is, Beach Bash is a big one for us. It's truly a tourism thing. Those folks will come in and spend 3 nights in our community. So they're going to our restaurants, they're going to the events, they're spending time. They're recognizing the hard work of our airport team in this community. But then we have our outdoor movies coming up. Jack, you'll probably remember this. Grease is our first one.
Grease is coming on. Drive-in, right?
Yep, that's going to be in the drive-in. So you'll be able to be a part of that one for sure. And then Squeaky, right? Is that was he in Grease? And then Fourth Fest is coming up. I think it was Squeaky.
I don't remember.
I don't know what you're saying.
Somebody said it. All right, you can tell Jack later. But Fourth Fest is going to be a great weekend. That one, I anticipate seeing some changes in that one as we're going on over the next few years, just simply because the cost associated with all of the expenses that come along with Fourth Fest, they just continue to climb, and it's because of the demand of the artist. So in case you didn't know, those 80s and 90s artists have not only captured all of us in this room, but they've captured the teenagers. The teenagers are listening to the same music that some of you all were listening to. I'm not that old, but some of you all were listening to. And because of that, the demand for that has increased, so all of their fees are going up. So I anticipate seeing some change that will look like, but the Tourism Committee did already approve this year's Fourth Fest, so we're looking forward to that. Harvest Fest, if you've been out to Mar Park, it's a beautiful place in itself, but in September they convert that over to just a gorgeous place for hay bales. If any of you want to sponsor a hay bale, that's available to you. But there'll be, I think last year there was around 30,000 people that were there from Friday night till Saturday afternoon. So that was a big economic impact for us. Wings Over Western Kentucky is going to be again this year. That's out at our airport. We had a great turnout for that. Around 4,800 people showed up for the very first annual air show, and it was incredible.
Most people that have ever been in Anton at one time.
You're right. And we found that out because the traffic was backed up all the way up. If the county had done their job, we would have been able to get
the judge knew what he was doing. I'm from Anton. I was able to get around just fine.
Okay, so we're starting to. You
have
anything else you want to say there?
Are you worried we're veering off topic?
No,
we don't ever do that.
We're just running short on time.
Only if you'll give me another cup of tea.
I do want to get to one more topic because I know there's a lot of activity going, and that's public protection. And when I say public protection, I'm talking about all of our first responders. And Judge, I know that you have some exciting things going on, the Sheriff's Department. So let's start there and talk a little bit about what's going on with those first responders.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that both the sheriff and the MPD have had really good years. You know, our sheriff's office, they had about a little over 20,000 calls in 2023. The thing that I'm most excited about, part one, the serious crimes are down 30% from last year and down almost 60% from 5 years ago. And a big part of that, in fact, probably the biggest part of that, is in addition to the mayor and myself and the cooperation we have, the MPD and the sheriff and the state police and all those involved have really strengthened their relationships through the leadership in those organizations. And just to see those numbers and how far they've come down, it's huge for our community because that's, you know, as we talk about retail and industry and different things coming, if you've got an area that people are worried about crime, they're not going to come. That's right. So seeing those decreases is great. But the ones who do get in trouble, that end up in the county jail, the jail does a great job with a lot of our people getting them GEDs, getting training for future employment, because if you're in jail and you get out with no skills, no money, pretty good chance you end up going back. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm proud of the way our elected officials take care of those things. And, you know, you see a lot of beautification projects mm-hmm. that the jail does. You know, last year they cleaned up about 20 miles of roadway, 286 tires, 874 bags of trash, and that's just basically free labor that, you know, and it gets the inmates out doing something instead of sitting in a cell. So what our folks have done, I think, is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mayor?
Yeah, so I've got to reiterate what Jack said, that the partnership between the agencies is what makes us successful. And the city of Madisonville has the lowest crime rate since 2003. So 20 years we're now at the lowest crime rate in the past 20 years. But there's several things that go into that, but a lot of it is just that partnership working together. We've been able to add some additional K-9 units to our law enforcement staff and our team. We've been able to, you see on the screen, the newest addition to the Madisonville Police Department. That is our regional law enforcement training complex. That complex is well underway. We've had several trainings out there already. It's exciting to be able to take folks out there. If anybody wants to donate and help finish that project, we are doing that out of the general fund, so we're having to spread that out as much as possible. But there are some needs out there. But that facility has sparked the interest of the DOCJT, which is the statewide training organization for all law enforcement across the state of Kentucky. And they will have 2 offices out there, and they will start hosting their recertification training. But we have actively been working in partnership with Senator Robbie Mills and with Representative Wade Williams on a Western Kentucky Police Academy. And we should find out as early as tomorrow or Friday from the Senate budget, or tomorrow is Friday, tomorrow or Monday from the preliminary Senate budget whether or not there's been $50 million allocated to Western Kentucky for a Western Kentucky Police Academy so that we can get our law enforcement officers trained in a reasonable time frame. Right now there's a 7-month wait to get in for all law enforcement officers across the state. 7-month wait time to get into the academy for an 18-week class.
So speaking about 7-month wait, I want to talk about the clerk's office real quick.
That's a 7-month. Oh, sorry.
So, because I don't know if you kept up with it, and this is not our clerk's fault. She's here today. She does a great job. If you need to register your vehicle, March is the busiest month. The state implemented a new system January of this year, and to say it's not gone as well as hoped would be a massive understatement.
Right.
Last time I talked to Keenan about it, you're looking at maybe a 2-hour wait to get your registration done. But if you need to do it, bring renewal cards, registration for your vehicle, show your driver's license or state ID card, and if you're doing business, bring your federal tax ID and a printed copy of your insurance card. Or go online to drive.ky.gov, and it will go smoother, and eventually the state will get these bugs worked out. But it's taking a while, and again, this is not the clerk's fault. This is on the state. So
Or
we'll
just
get there.
bring it to Jack. He'll take care of it.
We're closed for COVID right now.
Okay. It's 1 o'clock. These folks got to get back to work. So I just want to say in conclusion, thank you all. Thank you to your city council, your fiscal court, the hundreds of staff that you all have for making our community a better place to live, work, and play. So let's thank them again.